Sup guys, Fat Archon here, bringing another army view video. Today we're going over arguably one of the more powerful armies, at least currently, Imperial Knights. These guys really are like at top of their game right now. Definitely one of the armies you gotta beat. These are what are called a gatekeeper army, I would say. Basically, if your list isn't prepared to take on a bunch of big-ass knights, you're probably going to struggle in a lot of your games. They got a lot of very, very, very powerful abilities. I like Chaos Knights a whole lot. Like, I think Chaos Knights are also pretty good. These guys, arguably, eke them out just a little bit due to some of the special rules they get. Anyways, yeah, let's hop into it. For army rules, the main one they got is Code Chivalric. So essentially how this works, after the mission step, after the decide mission step, so before the game starts, you get to decide between one of two buffs you want to use. Each of them have two parts to it. You have the Oath ability that basically is the buff you just automatically get, and then you have a deed that you're going to try to complete. Completing that deed, first of all, gives you 3 command points, so excellent, that's very valuable to get more of those. And then also, too, there's other buffs that are going to key off that ability, so it's pretty important that you try to choose the one that you think that you'll be able to complete. Although, I'll be honest, so you'll probably choose the first one more often. The first one, speaking of, is Lay Low the Tyrant. Essentially, what you get for this one, the buff, is each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1. Now, there is some minor debate going on whether that means you reroll all hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1, or just a single one of them. I'll admit the majority of people I see seem to agree that it should have been or is meant to mean just a single one, but the wording is weird, because, yeah, normally they would write 1 hit roll of 1, so definitely some debate there. Go on ahead, you know, put your feedback in the comments if you believe strongly one way or the other. I would be curious to see how you guys think. Just please keep it civil, guys. The second one, oh, and then the deed for that that you're shooting for is Destroy the Enemy Warlord. So there'll be some cases where, you know, your Lancer or whoever will most likely be able to shred their Warlord, especially if they have a Warlord that, like, wants to get in the thick of it or whatever, like Angron. Angron, like, come on, man, you got that in the bag in that sort of case. So there's going to be certain times where, like, that's the obvious pick. Also, too, that buff is very powerful, especially when you got big knight weapons to use them. The second one to choose is Reclaim the Realm. This one gives you a +1 inch to your move, as well as your advance and charge rolls. That's actually pretty good. If you're going for a melee heavy list or a multi-roll heavy list potentially as well, that's actually a pretty decent one. Getting 1 to all those stats, like, it's actually very, very, very strong for a melee-focused army. And then the deed for it, pretty hard, honestly, but if this, basically, if you control your opponent's objective in his deployment zone, there's going to be plenty of games where that's basically impossible. Then again, there'll be some games where it is, like, you just basically waltz right in there and clear them off and take it. So it's not, like, totally impossible, but I do think when you consider the buff and then the ease of getting the deed completed, I do think Lay Low the Tyrant's going to be the one you see, like, the vast majority of the time. Another ability that Knights are going to bring to the table, so the big ones, well, most of the big ones, the Questoris Class specifically, most of them are going to have a Bondsman ability. This is pretty much what makes them pop, what makes Knights, like, very powerful. In your command phase, you choose your questers. Most of them are going to have a bondsman ability on their datasheet, and basically they get to put it onto a war dog, or excuse me, an armiger within 12 inches, and now, in 10th edition, they also benefit from that same buff. Some of these bondsman abilities are, like, super ultra powerful, so the fact that you're buffing 2 models, potentially even 3, yeah, man, that really makes Imperial Knights pop. That's one of the stronger abilities that they have access to. They also have, so they list the Super Heavy Walker ability, so all the Titanic ones, all the big ones, they're going to be able to ignore other, like, vehicles and monsters, and terrain that's 4 inches in height or less. And that'll come up, actually, like, fairly frequently. Also, too, when, like, all of your models are vehicles, like, literally every single one's a vehicle, okay, minus the Imperial agents you'll probably bring. Yeah, man, that helps a lot getting around the table, so that is pretty deceptively powerful. You also got the Freeblades ability, so just like Chaos Knights, you're able to soup them into other Imperial armies, so, you know, nice to know that you have access to. For their detachment ability, this is what really pushes them over the edge in my eyes. Indomitable Heroes, so by default, every single one of them gets a 6-up Feel No Pain. That's essentially a 20% boost, so on average, it's going to be like 4 to 5 wounds for most of the big guys. Great to have, and that's what makes you arguably better than Chaos Knights, I'd say. But then it gets crazy. If you reach the Honored, so if you complete your deed, it goes up to a 5-up Feel No Pain on these huge models. And again, sometimes there's going to be cases where defeating the enemy warlord, like, that's going to be simple. Like, cool, I could have done that first turn. Holy cow, man, if you get a 5-up Feel No Pain, that's like a 50% boost, and all of a sudden, like, all your big guys are essentially like 30+ wound equivalents, and even the Armigers are going to benefit from that pretty well. That is insanely powerful, and that's why you're really going to want to try to complete that deed if you're able to. On top of all that, Knights have some really good enhancements. Admittedly, some of them are pretty meh, but most are, about half of these, I'd say, are, like, really good. One of them, so Mythic Hero, I would argue, is an auto-include. Like, I would bring that every single time. It only goes on a Questoris, so it has to go on the specific class, but you can use the Bondsman ability one additional time on one additional Armiger. Holy cow, man. Being able to, that's buffing, like, half your army right there, practically. Whew. I would bring that every single time. Also, it's, like, really cheap. It's ridiculously cheap. It's 25 points. That is by far the best one, I think. Yeah, that's just an auto-include. If you're bringing Questoris, you just bring that right away. Another one I like the Banner of Macaris Triumphant. Essentially, it gives you sticky objectives. This can go on any model. That's, you know, obviously for Knights, that's pretty powerful, especially if you're mainly running the Questoris or the big boys. You may not have as many Armigers that are able to sit back and just hold an objective. Also, too, you got to worry if your Armiger dies. You can, in fact, put that on an Armiger if you want to, and potentially, like, that's the way to do it. The last one they got, that's okay, it's alright. Unyielding Paragon. And actually, this one's too expensive. It's 40 points, and it doesn't have the best targets. This can, again, only go on Questoris Knights, who have a 3-up save, and basically gives you -1 AP. You worsen the AP by 1 on attacks coming into you. That's pretty good. If they had a 2-up save, arguably maybe then it would be worth the 40 points, but as is, I'd skip that. It, like, looks flashy, but I'd skip that. Also, too, the last one that I think is pretty decent, Mysterious Guardian. This one lets you deep strike a knight, so that's, like, really good. I believe it can go on any knight. Let's double check. Yeah, it can go on any knight, so you can put it on a Castellan if you wanted to. Deep strike that behind your opponent turn 2, target whoever you want. You also, on top of that, once per battle, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can then deep strike your knight again. So that's great, man. That gives you movement, that helps you with scoring. That's a, you know, pretty powerful ability. All in all, most of those are pretty decent. Aside from the Unyielding Paragon, they're all fairly priced. 25 points for Mythic Hero. Like, yeah, just take it. Don't even think about it. They also get pretty good stratagems. A few of these are, like, crazy good. The last one that we'll get to is one of the best stratagems in the game, I'd argue. The first one is pretty good, so it does cost 2 CP, so it's pretty expensive, but you pick one of any of your models that lost 1 or more wounds. You do this in the command phase, by the way. Until your next command phase, so a long time, you improve their move, toughness, save, leadership, and objective control, all by 1, and each time you make an attack, you add 1 to the hit roll. Hot diggity dog. That basically buffs, like, everything. And the fact you can put on anyone, so again, we got Castellan. You can even put on Canis Rex if you wanted to. Like, all of those. Oh my god. It is balanced out by being 2 CPs. It also has the restriction, you can only use it once per battle, unless you manage to get honored, then you can use it a second time. I do think in most games, at least by like turn 4 or turn 5, you should be able to be honored by then, so you can kind of expect to use this twice. What's also incredibly good is comboing this with a really good model like Canis Rex, or again, a Castellan or whoever, so yeah, man, that's an incredibly good stratagem. Again, it is balanced out, but yeah, you'll probably want to use that. Another interesting one, they got the Rotate Ion Shields. This is just a classic. This has been around for forever. Essentially, in your shooting phase, you choose any one of your models and give them +1 to their invul, aka a 4-up invul save. That's something you'll use very often. If something really big, or maybe a mirror match, or whatever, is going to hit one of your knights, yeah, man, you just toss on the Ion Shields. Only 1 CP, so pretty cheap. That's something you'll use a lot. Another one that's pretty good, Squire's Duty. So you can use this either shooting or fight phase. It's only 1 CP. You get to choose 2 Armiger models, and until the end of that phase, you improve the strength and the armor pen by 1. If you're honored, you also add 1 damage. Like, they get so many buffs that have, like, multi-tiers to them. Like, this is crazy. And for only 1 CP and affecting multiple models, like, whew, that is a very strong stratagem to have access to. Oop, what's going on there? All right. Next one they got, you got a Trophy Claim. So, one of your Imperial Knights model, this is shooting or fight phase, only 1 CP. Any one of your models, when they're selected to fight either a monster or a vehicle, until the end of the phase, each time you make an attack, you add 1 to the wound roll, and if you manage to destroy that enemy, you gain 1 CP. So, essentially, it's a free stratagem in many cases when, like, you know you're going to wipe out whatever unit. So, pretty handy to have. There is a drawback. If you don't manage to destroy the unit, then you cannot use the stratagem again. So, truthfully, if I was your opponent and, like, I felt it mattered or whatever, there's a chance I would try to, like, re-roll a fail save or whatever to prevent you from getting this. So, do be aware that you got the drawback to it. But, man, that's essentially free. Like, that makes that incredibly powerful. The last one is one of my favorites, and I would put it up for one of the most powerful stratagems, period, just because of the stat lines that you're able to put it onto. Valiant Last Stand. So, fight phase only. You choose any one of your models that was just destroyed. Before you see if you blow up or any of that stuff, it just gets to fight. You do fight as though you're on only 1 wound remaining, so potentially you get -1 to hit. Although, if you're honored, then you basically fight on full profile, so again, late game, there's an okay chance that that'll happen. Just automatically happens. No 4-up like most of the other ones we see. And again, you gotta realize, you can put this on any model, like literally any of them. You put this on like a big boy like Lancer, or even Canis Rex, like any of them. Oh my god, man, that's so much damage. You can pretty much, like, wipe out the unit that just wiped you out. Get your points back, essentially, which is super important for an expensive army like this, especially when you're running the expensive models. Like, yeah, man, that is one of the most powerful. The fact that you don't have to roll a 4-up, and it's only a single CP, I think that's one of the best ones yet. Should be pretty obvious, so they have access to very powerful, not only army abilities, but also stratagems and enhancements. They basically got, like, the entire package. Knights are looking really spicy this edition. Yeah, GW did pretty good on that index. As for data sheets, so, again, there was a very recent points update. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but very recently there was a points update, so a whole lot of the, like, most common units all got price bumps, even the least common ones. Basically, any model that had towering went up a boatload, usually like 50 to 70 points or so, so big nerf. That said, I don't think, for most of them, I don't think it was big enough that, like, you suddenly don't bring them or whatever. There are some that knocked it down a peg for sure, especially some of the Forge World options. Definitely went, like, way higher, which is a good thing. Knights were a bit on the too powerful side, honestly, I think. So it's nice to see GW, like, being reactive to that, and they did it pretty quick, too. And I don't think they were too heavy-handed, at least from what I've seen. It doesn't seem too bad yet. Speaking of Forge World, I'm only putting in the ones I think are, like, relevant, and actually, like, worth looking over. Not everybody owns all the Forge World Knights, and a decent amount of those data sheets were, like, worthless. I did include a couple, like, not the best ones ever that we'll get to eventually, but just a heads up, not every Forge World is in here. 4 data sheets. So to start off, we got one of the big boys, Knight Castellan. So there's 2 versions. There's the Castellan and the Valiant. They are quite spendy now. I believe they're 565. Let's double check. Yeah, 565. So quite spendy. That's over a quarter of your list. That said, for it, you get a crazy good profile. You get 8-inch move, T13, 2-up save, 24 wounds with 10 objective control. Like, that is a extremely powerful stat line. That's one of the best in the entire game. For weapons, on the Castellan, he has okay weaponry. He's mainly range, so, well, he's fully range, I should actually say. His first weapon is going to be Plasma Decimator. So if you were to supercharge it, you get Blast. It's going to be variable shots, so D6 plus 3. Hitting on 3s, strength 9, minus 3 AP, 3 damage. That's okay. On this expensive of a unit, though, I don't really think it's, like, as good as we'd really want. The variable shots isn't the best, and only be strength 9 isn't the best either. So kind of on the fence with that, but AP3, 3 damage with the blast. The blast is very important. He will eat through, like, elite infantry and custodies and that sort of stuff. He'll be pretty good at those sort of units. He also gets a Shield Breaker Missile. This is a pretty powerful one. It's a 72-inch range, only one shot, but hits on 3s, strength 12, minus 6 AP, D6 plus 1 damage. It's also Devastating Wounds, and it's going to be anti-Titanic for it. So that's like your mirror match weapon, and with the Devastating Wounds, like, it'll be rare, but there will be times that I'll be able to chew through some infantry there. Maybe you don't have a better target. He also gets the Volcano Lance, so this also is pretty good. 72-inch range. It's D3 shots, so pretty variable and not that high a count, but hitting on 3s, strength 18, minus 5 AP, D6 plus 8 damage. It's also blast. So essentially, if you can roll well enough and actually, like, hit, this will do a boatload of damage. Even if you just get one through, like, that'll kill a vehicle in many cases. He has basically no melee, so you do want to be careful with him. He's one of the ones you kind of want to keep back or screen with your Armigers, but definitely no slouch when it comes to the damage output. For his price, kind of debatable, but either way. For his abilities, he's got 2 of them. So the first one, while a friendly Armiger is within 6 inches of this model, that model gets the benefits of cover. That's not that valuable. It is really easy to get cover in 10th edition, especially for a smaller model like a Knight, or Armiger. It'll be kind of easy to get them behind, like, the edge of a building or, you know, whatever terrain. His other ability, though, Titan Hunter. So each time he makes a ranged attack against a monster or a vehicle, you reroll a damage roll of 1. That one's alright, for sure. Definitely helps improve your damage and helps ensure that you don't have any, like, stinker, like, crappy 1 damage shots. So, nice to have, but not the most valuable. I will say, this guy, at 565 points, he has, like, a kind of average damage output in the scheme of things. Like I said, only having strength 9 on the main weapon, having variable shots on basically everything, like, not the best. He will do, like, a fair amount of damage. He will kill, like, a vehicle turn, but at 565 points, I'd kind of hope for a little better than that. He has a really strong stat line. Truthfully, the next guy is going to show this guy up pretty well. I do kind of think he goes in D. I'm not sure you really want to bring the Castellan. Speaking of the next one, we got the Valiant. So this guy's pretty legit. Same profile as the last guy, so T13, 2-up save, 24 wounds, so very resilient on his own. For his range weapons, though, so that's why you bring this guy. The first one, Conflagration Cannon. So this is Ignore Cover, Auto-Hitting Flamer, 18-inch range, 3d6 attacks. It's only strength 8, quote-unquote only, minus 1 AP, 2 damage. So, you know, that is perfect Overwatch fodder. Use that for Overwatch, you're going to kill a boatload of Marines and or lesser infantry. Even vehicles in the sort, like, that'll plink a few wounds off them. There will come times when that finishes off a unit, so good to have there. He also gets, just like the other guy, he gets the Shield Breaker Missile. He also gets a Harpoon, the Thunder Coil Harpoon. This is one of the cooler weapons in the game. I really like this one. It's anti-monster, anti-vehicle, 4-up, dev wounds. So when you're wounded on a 4-up versus those, which are very important unit types, just go straight to mortal wounds. 18-inch range, so not the worst thing. Only a single shot, but hits on 2s. Strength 24. You're winning other knights on 2s. Minus 6 AP, so basically no save unless you got an invul. 12 damage. This will delete a normal vehicle 50% of the time, essentially. Well, you know, a little less than that because you got to hit them or whatever, but, like, you have very good odds of this taking out your average vehicle. Even when you don't have vehicles, like, it'll be rare because you're going to roll 6, but potentially you take out an entire squad of, like, cultists or whatever with just a single shot if you get lucky. He's got some Carapace weapons, so you do get the Shield Breaker Cannons. Those are just, like, you know, extra plink damage. Doesn't hurt to have. For his abilities, very similar to the other guy. So he gives the Armiger within 6 inch. They get the benefit of cover, so woohoo. And then Overwhelming Firestorm. In your shooting phase, after this model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by this model, and they must take a battle shock test. Meh. It's not the best thing ever. Doesn't hurt to, like, you know, force a battle shock every now and then, but not the best thing ever. 565 points, so before the price bump, I think he was 485, I think. I'm not positive, but he was, like, very incredibly good back then. Now, he's still up there, but he's expensive. Even with that Overwatch, it's variable. It's 3d6, so you can expect, like, I guess 12 on average, but sometimes you'll, not roll as well. Sometimes you'll roll really good. It's only AP 1, so it's not going to delete as much as you might hope, but, it's nice to, as I always say, it's nice to have another tool in your toolbox, and that definitely is like one of the more powerful ones, so I do think he still belongs up there. It's hard to say with the new points that they all got, but I think for now, I'm going to put him A+ tier. I think another clever little thing you can do is give him the Deep Strike Stratagem, that way, or the Deep Strike Enhancement, that way you're able to, like, put him where you need him, because admittedly, he does have kind of short range and, like, no melee, so you do want to be careful with that, but just something to keep in mind. Alright, the first Forge World model. This guy is freaking spendy. I believe he's 745 points, which is huge. Yeah, 745, so hot diggity dog. I'm glad this is one that needed a price bump. He was like, I guess he was like right on the line, so maybe they might have gone a little too high, but either way, so this guy's main thing is he brings 2 twin magma las cannons. These are blast, very important, twin links, so you're rerolling them wounds, 2 of them, again, 72-inch range, D6 each, so 2d6, hit on 3s, strength 18, -4, d6 plus 6 damage. This guy is nuts, man, for that damage output. For his ability, he has each time this model remains stationary until the end of the turn, you get lethal hits. Admittedly that, we'd want to have sustained if we could, but that's still decent. Like, that'll help guarantee that a couple of your shots should get through just automatically and wound. So, if you get 2 of them through, boom, that's, at least 14 damage, so pretty good. I will say he's spendy now. He has T13, 2-up save with 5-up invul still, just like every other. 30 wounds, so he is pretty resilient. That damage output is nuts. I don't think he's like necessarily competitive yet. Maybe, like, it remains to be seen. I'm gonna put him in B tier. Because that is something, like, special to bring to the army, like, that much damage output, and that'll work versus, like, anything. The blast is fantastic. If you happen to find a big 10-man squad or whatever, yeah, man, let's just chew through a few of them. Alright, on to the Questoris. So, most of these will have, basically, the identical stat line. It's going to be 10-inch moves, so a little quicker, T12, 3-up save, 22 wounds, 10 objective control. So that's a great stat line. Never forget, too, that you got the 6-up feel no pain on top of all these, which is nuts. This guy comes with some pretty decent loadout. So he's got the rapid fire battle cannon, which I'd argue is one of the better range options that the Knights have access to. So it's going to be 72-inch range, blast, rapid fire, D6 plus 3, so it literally doubles its output of D6 plus 3, hitting on 3s, strength 10, only -1 AP, but 3 damage each. That is an incredible amount of output at very good strength as well. Like, that's an anti-everything sort of weapon, which definitely you want to be able to bring when you're not running that many models necessarily. He also has, I would swap out the sword for the gauntlet, pretty much every model. I just like that gauntlet a lot. It is only 4 attacks, so it might disappoint you from time to time if you don't roll that well. Hitting on 3s, strength 20 though, -3 AP, 8 damage each, so pretty damn strong. He's also got a sweep, which is arguably just as valuable. 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 10, -2 AP, 3 damage each. The sword as well is also decent. Basically, you just do a little bit less damage, but have better AP. So either of those are viable. I just prefer the gauntlet. On pretty much all these knights, you can give them carapace-mounted weapons as well. I'd recommend the Storm Spear Rocket Pod on most of them. It's going to be 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, -2, D6 damage. So that's nice to get some more heavy damage out there. I like that a fair bit. As for his abilities, so they're alright. His Bondsman is, while a model is affected by this ability, its weapons have the lethal hits and lance ability. Remember, so lance is +1 to wound, but you do have to charge first, so that does require that you have either multi-roll or like melee units to take advantage of that. But, winning pretty much everything in the game on 2 is going to be pretty handy. The lethal hits also will help you get some through. Again, I'd rather have sustained hits, but, take what you can get. His other ability is Seasoned Noble, so once per phase you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 rune roll, or 1 saving throw made for this model, so that's pretty decent. All of those are very nice to have, especially if, like, for example, melee, if you're going for the strike, you only got 4 attacks, very good that you can reroll one of those misses or reroll one of those wounds. I like that a lot. Also, too, if you're going to take some crazy, like, anti-Titanic hit, being able to reroll your invul, like, that, too, is great to have. He's kind of spinny. He's 450 points now, I do believe. Let's double check. Yeah, 450. I don't really like his bondsman ability that much. You know, it depends how you build your list. If you go melee heavy, I tend to lean toward ranged personally, but you do need some melee or at least multi-roll for sure you need it. So there is a debate whether you bring this guy or not. I think he's just decent. He's just like a solid Questoris class. I think he belongs in B. Alright, next up, we got Mr. Crusader. So this is your, like, ranged dude. I would change from the default loadout, so I'd go just like the picture. So, Avenger Gatling Cannon, and again, that rapid-fire battle cannon, just like the last guy. Very good to have. The Avenger, too, is, like, just as good, if not better. 36-inch range, 18 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, minus 2 AP, 2 damage each. That's gonna mulch Marines like they're grass. That is a fantastic weapon to have. You can also put either a flamer or a stubber on it. Personally, I go for the stubber just so you match the range on it. For his abilities, he's got some pretty decent ones. So his bondsman, while a model is affected by this ability, each time that model makes a range attack, add 1 to the hit roll. You can have this guy doing however many crazy amount of attacks, hitting on 2s. Hot damn. Yeah, I think that is definitely a very powerful bondsman ability. And think, too, that you're giving it to multiple units, potentially 3 of them. His other ability is Punishing Salvos, so in your movement phase, if the model remains stationary until your next movement phase, its ranged weapons have the Sustain Hits 1 ability. That's what we're talking about. Especially with the number of shots this guy is putting out, you will at times get a ridiculous amount of sustained hits off that. I do think this guy's pretty up there. I like him a lot, to be honest. Now, he is spendy. I believe he's 475. Yep. So he's definitely up there, but the amount of firepower he's bringing... for Knight specifically, yeah, man, I think he might be S tier. I think he might be S tier. The fact he's hitting on 2s, gets the sustained hits that we haven't been seeing like we wanted, and just the great weaponry he's got, yeah, man, I think he belongs in S. We got the Preceptor. Ooh, this guy is, I want to say he's 430. Let's double check. Yeah, 430. He's okay. So for his weaponry, he's got the Las Impulsor. You can do high intensity or low intensity. The good one, so the high intensity, is only going to be 24-inch range, only D6 shots, hitting on 3s, strength 14 though, minus 3 AP, only 4 damage each. It is blast, which does help a lot, so this will help clear like Terminators and that sort of stuff if there's like, you know, Tin Man. It does have low intensity, which is okay actually. So it also is blast, 36-inch range, so you get a little better. 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, only strength 7, only minus 1, but 2 damage each. So that'll be okay versus like Chaff, like that's probably the one you'd use then. Otherwise, just like the other guy, I'd swap out his melee for the Gauntlet. I just prefer the extra strength on that. You gotta think too, the tank shot stratagem on pretty much any of these guys is gonna be nuts. You're gonna be rolling like over 20 dice. Like, yeah man, definitely bear that in mind. As for his abilities, this first one kind of sucks to be honest. So, Mentor, Bondsman ability. While a model is affected by this ability, improve that model's leadership by 1 and improve their objective control by 2. Neither of those are valuable, like, in the least bit. Like, no, not at all. You already have pretty high objective control, and you're a freaking knight, so you should be able to, like, kill some models if you need to, you know, make sure that it's not a tie or whatever. His second ability, though, Exemplar of the Code. At the start of the battle, you choose 1 unit from your opponent's army. Each time this model makes an attack that targets it, you can re-roll the hit roll. So that is pretty good. You know, have a big scary knight chasing you down would definitely creep me out. But unfortunately, the Bondsman really holds this guy back, I think. Honestly, I can't think of like a single reason to use that. Like, he's sort of on the cheaper side, I guess. But truthfully, with the random attacks and everything too, honestly, I kind of think he's trash. I really don't like that guy that much. At least for a knight, he's trash, I guess you could say. Now, to make up for that trashy dude, we got the Warden. This guy is, yeah, he's S tier. This guy's fantastic. He did go up quite a bit in points. I want to say he's 480 now. Yeah, 480, so pretty expensive, but for that, you get, so you get the Avenger Gatling Cannon, so you get the 18-shot, 2 damage infantry killer. And then you are multi-roll, so again, you go for the Gauntlet or the Reaper Chainsword. Give him the Storm Spear Rocket Pod, give him Melt-A-Gun, all that sort of stuff, as usual. So pretty basic in that regard, sorta. For his abilities, though, that's where this guy pops. So his Bondsman ability, Warden's Duty. While a model is affected by this ability, each time an attack is located on the model, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. You combine that with the Feel No Pain, especially if you happen to have the 5-up version. Yeah, Knights suddenly become, like, the most resilient army in the game, at least the models that are affected by this. This guy becomes a prime target for the enhancement that lets you choose an extra armature. Right there, that alone basically bumps this guy to S tier in my eyes. His second ability is also pretty decent, so Thin Their Rings. Each time this model makes a range attack that targets an enemy unit, aside from excluding monsters and vehicles, that attack has a Devastating Wounds ability. The fact you're throwing out the Avenger Gatling Cannon, 18 shots worth, like, yeah, man, you'll get some more wounds through every now and then. And versus, like, 1 wound models, yes, definitely want to have access to that. So I like this. This guy brings, like, decent everything. Decent damage, decent melee, extremely good ability. He goes, like, top of S tier in my eyes. Alright, next up we got Knight Errant. Ooh, I want to say this guy is 430, but let's double check. 430, yep. So, relatively cheap. For 90s, kind of cheap. He does have a kind of restrictive loadout. So, he's stuck with the thermal cannon, which I don't especially like. It's 24-inch range, so relatively short. 2d3 attack, so variable. That's what kind of holds it back to me. Hit on 3s, though. Strength 12, minus 4 AP, d6 damage, so also variable. It is Melta 6 and Blast, so those both are, like, incredibly powerful. But to get the Melta, you gotta get really close. And again, for the most part, it's all variables, so there will be times when this guy just, like, drops the ball. Not too happy with that. Again, you can do either Sword or the Gauntlet if you want to. So he is, multi-roll, so there is value in that. For his abilities, his first one, Errant's Duty, Bondsman ability. So, while a model is affected by this ability, you can reroll the advanced rolls, and its ranged weapons will have the Assault ability. So that's actually pretty good, especially for, like, movement. If you're maybe going for, like, a more scoring-centered, like, Knights list, if that's a thing, that'll be pretty handy, because now suddenly you're able to not only advance and shoot, but reroll those advances. So that'll give you a fair bit of movement on the affected models. His second ability, Aggressive Assault. So each time he makes a range attack against the closest target, you add 1 to the hit roll. That's okay. His thermal cannon's more anti-vehicle, so screens will kind of like prevent you from getting that a lot of the time. But when it comes up, like, yeah, man, that's pretty good to have. This guy, for his price, 430, isn't terrible at all. Getting the anti-vehicle is pretty helpful. That said, I think he just have better choices. I'll put him in C, I think. Potentially belongs in B. Like, he's not terrible by any means. And actually, with the cheap cost, you know what? Yeah, I'll put him, like, bottom of B. I think he's bottom of B, actually. Alright, Knight Gallant. So this is the cheapest one. This one's only 400 points. It did not get a nerf in its cost, so that's pretty good. He also has a little extra movement, so 12-inch movement. Otherwise the same as the rest, T12, 22 wounds. Now he is pretty much melee only, so you get both. You get the sword or the gauntlet. Unfortunately, that doesn't add anything except for being able to choose whichever is best, so there is some value in that. You can use the AP if you need it. Don't forget that you still get the Carapace stuff, so you still got the Rocket Pod, the Melta Guns, that sort of stuff, so you still have a little bit of range output coming from that, which you definitely need when we're talking about 400-point models, but again, this guy's like main thing is going to be rushing across the board and slicing some stuff in half. For his abilities, so we got Gallant's Duties, Bondsman ability. While this model is affected by this ability, you can reroll your charge roll, and each time you make a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll. Both of those are very powerful if you're going for a melee or multi-roll focus list. I think, too, like, honestly, that's really good. I like that a lot. If you build for it in your list, like, you definitely take advantage of that. His other ability is going to be Martial Pride. Each time he makes a melee attack, he can add 1 to the hit roll. So that takes this guy up a notch. He is already hitting on 2s, but if and when he gets wounded and has his profile affected, you'll continue to hit on 2s, so that's alright. Admittedly, it's not going to do anything like most of the time, so it's sort of like a dead ability, but still nice to have. I actually like this guy a fair bit. Even though he's a melee knight in a 10th edition world, I still think at the 400 points and the bondsman ability he gives, like, both of those are pretty valuable. I'm just going to put him straight up A. If he had gotten nerfed in cost, he definitely would have dropped down, but yeah, man, I think he's solid all around. And I also think he's a decent addition to add into allied armies. Alright, next up we got the man himself, Mr. Canis Rex. So, this guy's a pimp. I definitely think you consider bringing him in most lists. He did get quite a hefty price increase. I think he's $495 now, so he's almost 500 points. let's see, 490. So there probably is some debate if he's as strong as he was before, but I think he is. So basic stat line, so still the 10-inch move, T12, 22 wounds, all that. Still just a 3-up save, so no 2-up, luckily. Well, luckily for his opponents. It's got a fixed loadout, but it's pretty decent. So, Chainbreaker Las Impulsor, high intensity. It's blast, sustained hit, so we like that. It is only D6 shots in 24-inch range, but hitting on 2s, strength 14, minus 3 AP, damage 4. So that's pretty decent for like anti-elite. I think that is actually pretty powerful with the blast. If somebody's bringing a blob of elite infantry, like that's just going to eat through them. He does have the low intensity version as well, so that one's 36-inch range. Still has blast and sustained hits, but it's 2d6 attacks, hitting on 2s, only strength 7, only minus 1, but 2 damage each, so that'd be great for like chaff. He's also got Freedom's Hand. What a great name. You need to paint him an American flag or whatever. So strike profile. So again, sustain hits 1. I'm liking that. Only 5 attacks, but hitting on 2s. Strength 20, minus 3 AP, 9 damage each. So definitely will be killing some stuff. He's also got the sweep profile, which is just as good. Sustain hits 1, 10 attacks, hit on 2, strength 10, minus 2, 3 damage each. So again, perfect for clearing out elite infantry. It's going to be this guy's specialty. He has a very good ability as well. Legendary Freeblade. So once per turn, you can target this model with a stratagem for free. You can do this even if somebody else was targeted with that stratagem in the same phase. Hot damn, that 2 CP stratagem that buffs like every single stat, I would consider using that all the time. Even then, you can just use it for the rotate ion shield. Maybe you're out of CP and you die in melee, you can use the fight on death. Like, there's a million things you'll be able to use that. I love that it's like once per turn, so you can use it on your turn or opponent's turn. It's not once per battle, none of that crap. Like, that is very, very damn good with the stratagems you guys have access to. He's also got Chainbreaker, so each time this model makes an attack, a successful hit roll of 5 up scores a critical hit. So pretty much everything he has, well, literally everything he has sustained hits. So suddenly, a third of your hits are exploding. Yeah, man, that's super good, especially combined with a blast. This guy goes straight to S tier. I like Canis Rex a lot. He's probably someone you consider as a Freeblade if you're allying in a big knight. Definitely goes way up there. I think, he's probably tied with the Warden, but I like Canis a lot. I'd bring him every time. I should mention, too, that when he dies, his little buddy pops out. And what's awesome about this guy, he has Lone Operative, and he has 1 objective control. Not really useful for anything else aside from that, but potentially you'd be able to hold on to an objective by having that guy there. I will say, in most cases, when Canis blows up, the guy's going to be pretty exposed, so he might not survive the turn, but there will be times when that comes up and that potentially could win you the game. Alright, we're on to the Armigers. So, the Helverin. This guy's like the classic. Pretty good, actually, pretty good. He kind of had like a side grade in a sense from 9th edition, but I like him. I would definitely bring him. 140 points, so pretty cheap. His main weapons, he's got 2 autocannons, so he's going to have 8 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 9, only 1 AP, but 3 damage each. Do you remember that there's ways to buff that AP? I believe you can buff the strength as well, and the damage. Like, once you start buffing these guys, like, woo, definitely gets up to the next level. Pretty good stat line, so it's a vehicle. It's actually a good vehicle at 140 points, like really good vehicle stat. 12-inch move, T10, 3-up save, 12 wounds with 8 objective control. So this guy's no slouch at like taking objectives and taking hits. I like him a lot. No melee to speak of, so this is one of the ones that you want to probably keep in your deployment zone. But again, pretty good to have. At least one of them I think you include in most lists, and then potentially even like 2 or 3. Depends how you need. For his ability, it's pretty interesting. Skyfire Protocols. While he's either wholly within your deployment zone or within range of an objective, you get anti-fly 2-up on your cannons. There will be certain matches where that's just like, this guy suddenly becomes the MVP. Versus like Tau battlesuits or random Drukhari with their transports and all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, man, this guy's definitely the real deal. In Chaos Knights, I rate him fairly low. In Imperial Knights, I think, honestly, I think he goes A+. Potentially the first one even goes like S tier, and then the second one's dropped down to A+, and maybe third one's A or whatever. Like him a lot, 140 points, very fair. Your other option is the Warglaive. So this guy's, I believe, is 145. Let's double check. 140. Other was 145. So tiny bit cheaper. For that, you get a mixed role profile, which is pretty valuable. Like, definitely you want to be able to get into melee. That way you can flip objectives and hold them pretty well. So I do think there's something that you consider adding. His weapons, they're okay. Thermal Spear is like alright. 24-inch range, only 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, but strength 12, -4, d6 damage. I don't like the d6 damage as much because there will be times that you roll low, but for the most part, it'll do alright. It is also Melt of 4, and the fact this guy is multi-roll, like, there's a good chance that you get within 12 inches of the targets you need to be, and at that point, yeah, that suddenly becomes pretty good. He's also got the Reaper Chain Cleaver, so for strike attack, it's only 4 attacks, but hitting on 3s, strength 10, -3, 3 damage each, so excellent, helps clear out elites. And then he's also got Sweep, which will be 8 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 8, -2, 1 damage each. So pretty decent, both of those profile, not the best ever, but like, they'll do some work. For his abilities, he's got each time this model makes a charge move, until the end of the turn, melee weapons get sustained hits 1. He only has 4 attacks on the strength profile, so you can't really rely on that one. And then for sweep with 8, yeah, you get a couple extra with the sweep. It's nice to have, like, it'll come up every now and then, but it's not something you really rely on. I don't think he's, like, super good. I don't think he's, like, S tier. I'm not even sure he's A+. But he does bring he brings the multi-roll to your army. So he gives you a smaller guy who's able to do some melee, which is pretty vital, I would say. So I am going to put him in A tier. I think they belong in most lists, potentially. Alright, and then we got the Forge World option. So this guy used to be really common. I don't think you'll see him that much anymore. He's too expensive. He's 170 points. Identical profile as the others. But he does get so I would use double Graviton Pulsar on this guy, which is actually kind of interesting thought. So it's anti-vehicle 2-up, blast, 24-inch range. If you bring 2 of them, it'd be 2d6 attacks, hit on 3s, only strength 7, doesn't matter if it's a vehicle though, -1 AP, 2 damage each. So, you know, potentially he'll plink some wounds off of vehicles like fairly consistently. At the 170 points, though, I'm not sure if that's really worth it. You can also, you'd like drop one of those and bring like a Siege Claw. Siege Claw actually is like one of the better melee weapons that the smaller knights have access to. 4 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 12, -3 AP, d6 plus 2 damage. So that's actually like really powerful. But again, at 170 points, I think you get close enough with the Warglaive, probably not worth it. For his ability, basically he can do the Heroic Intervention for free, even if somebody else did it. You know, maybe you'll gain some movement every now and then, but I don't think that's really, like, the best ability you could have. 170 points is a hard pill to swallow. Honestly, I think it just goes in C. I think you have better options with the other ones. Alright, on to, so this is, like, just Forge World now. Some of these are pretty good, and some of them are getting plastic kits, like Lancer is getting a plastic kit like any day now. Is it already out? Like, I'm not even sure, but so you'll definitely start seeing this guy a bit more. This guy specifically is like, he's the real deal for sure. I forget the points, let's look though. Alright, 495, so he is really expensive, so you're definitely paying for what you're getting here. But what you're getting 14-inch moves, so incredible, T12, and then a 4-up invul always. And the 6-up Feel No Pain, potentially 5-up Feel No Pain. 25 wounds, 10 objective control. Suddenly, man, with those Feel No Pains and everything, and the 4-up invul, this guy is probably your most resilient knight that you have access to. Yeah, man, this guy's no slouch for sure. For his profile, so range weapons, he's got the Shock Lance. So it's only 12-inch range, but it's sustained hits 2 and assault. So with the advance, like, there's a good chance you should be able to get in range. 6 attacks, hit on 3s, only strength 6, no AP, but 2 damage each. So they'll plink a few wounds every now and then. But you don't bring him for that. You bring him for the melee version of his lance. So his strike profile, it's going to have lance, so +1 to wound. 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 20, -3 AP, 8 damage each. So even other knights, like this guy will do pretty well at chewing through. With that lance, like you basically wound everything in the game on a 2-up. Yeah, I like that a lot. He's also got the sweep, so 10 attacks. Again, hitting on 2s, which is great. Strength 10, -2 AP, 3 damage each. As you probably noticed with knights, like they got a lot of elite clearing. This plays into that even more. For abilities, you got Lancer's Duty, Bondsman ability. While this model is affected by this ability, it can advance and charge. Ooh boy, like that is really good. The fact that you can give it not only to some of the smaller war dogs, or excuse me, armigers, but also to yourself. Like, yeah, man, 14-inch move with the advance and charge, that is incredible. You have a pretty good odds of getting the first turn charge with that. I like it a lot. He also has a very good second ability, Chuck Charge. So you can target this model with the Tank Shock stratagem for free, even if you already used it. I think that's a pretty good like trick to use, using the Tank Shock twice. So do it on somebody else first and then this guy. But even then, just using him on himself, you got Strength 20. You're going to roll so many freaking dice to do a boatload of mortal wounds to somebody. I like this guy a lot. Even at 500 points, like, that's probably fair. It's definitely up there, but yeah, man, I'm gonna put him S tier, just like middle of S tier. 500 points is a boatload. Maybe he goes an A+, but again, that 4-up invol, the feel no pain, the great damage, like, he's got everything you want. You know, it'd be better if he had more range, but then he'd be like way OP, so yeah, man, I think he's S tier. The Knight Castigator, let's check his price. $485, so like the tiniest bit cheaper than the other one. This guy, pretty good. He's got a really good cannon, so same profile as the other, but he does have the 5-up invol and range only, so do be aware of that. Castigator Bolt Cannon, so it is twin-linked, so reroll those wounds. 18 attacks, 36-inch range, hit on 3s, strength 6, -2, 2 damage each. It's gotta be excellent and kill on infantry. And then for melee, he's got the Tempest Warblade. So 4 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 14, -4 AP, which is really good. 6 damage each. Wish we had more attacks, but that's still great. He'll still carry himself. He's also got the Sweep, which arguably is just as good. 12 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 9, -3 AP, 2 damage each. So great AP, pretty good damage, a lot of attacks. I like that a lot. For abilities, you got Castigator's Duty, Bondsman. While a model is affected by this ability, its ranged weapons have sustained hits 1, and the armor pen of its ranged weapons are improved by 1. Oh boy, like, yeah, man, that's super powerful. Anything that gives you more AP, like, already is incredible, and then you get sustained hits 1 on top of that, especially with this guy's 18-shot weapon. That is really good. The extra AP especially, like, that's deceptively powerful. And then also for a second ability, Storm of Bolts. In your shooting phase, after this model shot, select one model, excluding monsters and vehicles, that was hit by 1 or more. Until the start of your next turn, while this model is on the battlefield, that enemy is suppressed. While an enemy is suppressed, they -1 from the hit rolls. For a tough army like Knights, where it's already like sort of a pain for many armies to deal with them, adding a -1 to hit on top of that is like pretty damn strong. I like pretty much everything about this guy. He's kind of spendy, like definitely kind of spendy, but I think he too belongs in S tier. I think he's right up there with the Lancer. The +1 AP, being able to toss that around, yeah, I like it a lot. All right, for the all right, for the Archon, I think it is. Let's check his points. 445, so he's getting kind of cheap. Same profile as the last guy, 5-up invol, range only. He brings a pretty good flamer, so he's got auto-hitting, 18-inch range, ignores cover, 2d6 attacks, strength 8, only -1 AP, but 2 damage each, so that plays into that Overwatch stratagem. He also got Twin Heavy Bolter, for what that's worth. Brings a Reaper Chain Fist, so you got a bit of melee that you can toss in there as well. Also, it kind of looks like it's buffed, because in the sweep, it gets 12 attacks, hit on 3, strength 9, -3, 2 damage each. I think they normally only get 8, so that's pretty cool that he gets more attacks on that. That does add a little bit of value to this guy. For abilities, you got Archon's Duty, Bondsman ability. While models affected by this ability, at the start of the fight phase, each enemy unit within engagement range must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from their leadership while doing so. We've been over this a million times. That's really not the best ability ever. Kind of skippable, to be honest. It'll come in handy every now and then, but meh. His second ability, though, Searing Flames. In your shooting phase, after this model shot, select one enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, they get no benefit of cover. You know, cover's really common, so that will still come in handy. I don't think you have too many, like, AP0 stuff, so you'll still get to make use of your AP and whatnot by having that. Still, that said, the fact it's only 18-inch range, only AP1 and 2 damage, like, he's too expensive for that flamer. Like, yeah, you could use him for the Overwatch or whatever, but I think you got better choices. Yeah, I think he goes, truthfully, I think he just goes C tier. If he was cheaper, if he was like 4 or 10 or something, maybe I'd consider him, but not too impressed. All right, the Atropos. So this guy's got got okay loadout. He's got the Las Cutter, high intensity. So D6 shots hit on 3, strength 14, minus 3 AP, 4 damage each. Sustain hits 1, so that'll be good at clearing out those elite infantry. He's also got the low intensity, so 2d6 attacks, only strength 7, only minus 1, but 2 damage each, so, you can deal with either infantry pretty decently. Let's see, does he have both? That's right, okay. So he's also got the Graviton Singularity Cannon. This one's alright, it's pretty powerful, so, good at anti-vehicle. The boosted profile is going to have blast and devastating wounds, only D3 shots and only 24-inch range, so don't really like that. But hit on 3s, strength 16, minus 4 AP, D6 plus 1 damage. The fact it's only D3 attacks really holds that back a bit, but every now and then you'll ping some wounds off a monster or vehicle. You can also use his Las Cutter in melee. The boosted profile is going to be 6 attacks with sustained hits, hit on 3s, strength 14, minus 3, 4 damage each. They basically mirror the range version, identically actually, but not being variable attacks, it actually makes that stronger. So with this guy, you would want to get him in a melee. For his abilities, so we got Atropos' Duty, Bondsman. While a model is affected by this ability, each time that model makes an attack that targets a Titanic or Towering model, so for the mirror match, you can reroll the hit roll and the wound roll. That's pretty good. Unfortunately, I don't think his weapons are really that cut out for dealing with Titanic. The fact you can reroll them, though, that does help a bit, but, I'd want something stronger to take advantage of that. Then again, you can also toss it on a couple Armigers, so it has some value there. Second ability is going to be Macro Extinction Protocols. Each time this model makes an attack that targets a monster or vehicle, you can add 1 to the hit roll. If the target is Titanic or Towering, you can add 1 to the wound roll as well. So that actually kind of makes up for what I was just saying, how it's not the best versus Knights. It doesn't do as much damage as I'd like, but the fact that you can get it boosted with both the +1 hit and wound, those do combine together to help that out quite a bit right there. This guy's hard to rate. Honestly, he's not terrible. I think he just goes on B tier. Probably bottom of B tier. Potentially goes higher. I wish he had more damage on his weapons, though. That's the one thing holding him back for me. And finally, we got the Megara. Man, how the mighty have fallen. This guy was definitely one of the top dogs last edition. This edition, he got took out to the shed. I'm kind of surprised I included him here, to be honest. Let's check his points. I think he's 450. Yep. So he's mid-range, so not the most expensive. Pretty decent profile for the price. Got the lightning cannon, so sustain hits 2, which is great. 12 attacks, which is fantastic. 48-inch range, also great. Hitting on 3s, strength 9. No AP, though, but 2 damage. So, that'll do okay. Marines and cover, it's going to bounce off of for the most part, but people with terrible saves, that'll do pretty alright. Especially, orcs, that'd be perfect for that. You also got the Phase Plasma Fusel, so Rapid Fire 2, 24-inch range, only 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, minus 3, 2 damage each. Rapid Fire helps with it, but otherwise only being 2 attacks, it's not the best. It is nice that it has some AP, though, so, at least you can actually get some wounds through. And then also, he's got the Twin Rad Cleanser, so if you bring the Siege Claw, which you probably should, I don't know, it's unique to this guy, so I would. It's auto-hitting Flamer, ignores cover, anti-infantry 2-up, and Twinling. So basically every hit, should get a wound. Issue is, it's only 12-inch range, D6 attacks, strength 2, but you use it for the infantry. No AP and only 1 damage, so, you'll do 2 or 3 wounds with that. It's really not the best thing ever. And then again, they'll make their save, so, that's the one that got nerfed quite a bit. Speaking of the Siege Claw, so in melee, it's get 4 attacks with the strike profile, hit on 3s, strength 20, minus 3 AP, 8 damage, so pretty good damage output. He's also got the sweep, 8 attacks, strength 10, minus 2, 3 damage each, so that's not terrible. For his abilities, honestly, it's not the best. Megara's Duty, Bondsman. While a model is affected by this, ranged weapons get the Ignores Cover ability. Yes, people will have cover quite often, so that does help with your damage output. That is actually, kind of clever. I just think, you could have better, because there's ways to negate the cover issue. So, yeah, not the best thing ever. His second ability, Repair Auto Simulacra. At the end of your command phase, this model regains D3 wounds. That's pretty pathetic. I would wish for D6 wounds or 2D3 or something like that. D3, you're gonna roll 1 or 2 every now and then on a 22 wound model. Not that great in the scheme of things. Megara, yeah, he's too expensive for what you're getting. I think, truthfully, I think he goes in D tier. He used to be like straight S tier, but nowadays, yeah, I think he belongs in D. All right, guys. Well, I think that does it. Definitely, Knights, like I mentioned in the beginning, they're one of the more powerful armies. Even with the nerfs, I think you're still going to see them at tournaments, like, literally all the time. I would expect, I would basically plan for every tournament, like, plan that chances are you're going to run into a Knight player at some point. Just like in 7th and 8th and 9th, just like every edition, basically, you need to be sure that you have the anti-tank able to take out one of these guys. The math gets funky, too, when they got that Feel No Pain, especially the 5-up Feel No Pain. I would be careful about giving up the deed. So, like, if your Warlord's not that important, consider hiding that guy from these guys. Anyways, as always, guys, if you got any comments, suggestions, questions, post them below. I'll take a look and see how I can help. Hope this proved useful, and good luck out there, guys.